There's not too much left to say here. Sleepaway Camp 3 came out a year after Unhappy Campers, features the same writing and directing team, and once again casts Pamela Springsteen as that savage, psycho bitch with a penis, Angela. From the film's intro, she kills an inner-city camper on her way to Camp New Horizons, an experimental camping ground used to keep kids in line. We get to the camp, and there's an unsympathetic news reporter who interviews the goofy camp owner.
We brung together two specially selected groups from all over America.
Then proceeds to introduce this film's new characters. The film assumes we're going to remember them later down the road, but I don't get the point here. What film introduces its characters this way? You're supposed to introduce your body count gradually, not in this half-assed manner.
You wouldn't know where I could score some Coke.
Yeah, there's a machine in the dining hall.
So the news reporter is looking to score some Coke. The next thing we know, Angela is baking her a Clorox surprise. What did she overdose on, Mr. Clean?
Are there any questions?
Yeah. Do the guys get to sleep with the girls?
That's the best question I've heard all night. It turns out that one of the counselors is a cop whose son was killed in Sleepaway Camp 2. Remember that guy who got decapitated in that oh-so-realistic way? We find the weird camp owner cheating on his wife with one of the younger campers. You would have to be extremely horny to want to boink the old lady's husband, especially one who talks like this.
The first group is from the higher class establishments, and the other is from lower class homes.
Angela beats him to death with a stick and then kills the woman.
Good thing you're dead, because in a couple years, your breasts would have been sagging something terrible.
Then she shows her love of pyrotechnics by shoving a dynamite up this guy's nose, blowing his face off. What is with her beating her victims to death? This movie must have been really running out of ideas at this point. She acts as the Asian girl because she's Asian? I love the scene where the dumb hick white girl blasts rap, and of course the black guy retorts by bashing country music in his defense.
You dirty nigger.
She ties up a girl to a pole, lifts her up in the air, and then drops her back down to the ground. You notice something else about this movie? The scenery. Yeah, most of it so far takes place on this little patch of land in the woods. I'm not saying the last two movies were very scenic, but at least they changed up the locations every so often. The crazy old woman ties up Angela and one of the counselors to try and get them to work as a team.
How long do we have to do this for?
Well, until you catch enough fish for lunch and dinner. It'll test how well you work together.
What about the steak you were cooking?
That was mine.
What a bitch! So Angela blindfolds her, buries her in a pile of garbage, and runs over her with a lawnmower. You know what? Both this and Toxic Avenger Part 3 came out in the same year. And what happened at the end of Toxic Avenger? I think someone was a Troma fan. I'm sorry, but given this film's lack of originality, I have to give Troma the credit here. She ties up a kid to a tree and tightens the rope by driving off in a Jeep. Are we noticing a pattern here? Basically, it's just a random series of people being knocked out cold or being tied up. At least the second film had some creativity. Parts of it were gross, but it was more satisfying because the death scenes were a little more thought out. But this is just repetitive. Angela finally confronts the officer whose son she killed last year.
Well, how are you gonna do it? A knife? Drill? What a chainsaw? Fire? Battery acid? Or you're just gonna cut my head off like you did my son's?
A gun!
Finally, Angela somehow gathers up the remaining survivors.
The rules are simple. Marcia is in one of the 3 cabins behind you. Is she in cabin number 1, cabin number 2, or cabin number 3? You have exactly 2 minutes to find out. If you run away, I'll kill you. If you don't find her, I'll kill you. And if you hurt me in any way, I will kill you.
After Angela leaves, one of the survivors has the balls to chase her down with an axe, and finally chops her down after there's a scuffle. So you'd think she'd be dead, right? I guess she has super penis powers because as they cart her away in the ambulance, she comes back to finish the job. I have mixed feelings about this one. It's not technically good, and while it is in some ways better than the first film, it's underwhelming because it doesn't take as many risks. I didn't think Angela was a particularly threatening or even interesting killer to begin with. She had no motive, and for that matter, no real hook. At least Jason had his mask and Freddy had his glove. Angela's the faceless rock star that didn't quite make the Slasher Hall of Fame, and this one just takes it into another level of obscurity. The kills are repetitive and the pacing is boring. The characters are unlikable, most of them are annoying, and by the time it ends, you're pretty glad to be rid of the series. Except, there is a Sleepaway Camp 4. God damn it to hell.